Amazing rediscovery. Soldier and his K9 unveil the touching truth behind a little girl's whisper. Jake stepped off the bus, the weight of his military jacket pulling down on him like a shroud. Home. This was the place he'd fought to protect, yet it felt foreign, a sepia-toned photograph from a life that wasn't his anymore. He brushed his hand across Max's sleek back, the steadfast K9 by his side who had weathered the storms of war with him. As they walked the cracked concrete streets, memories flickered, children biking, laughter echoing off the summer breeze, his family's pride radiant in their eyes. But that life felt like a mirage now, as he felt more like a ghost wandering among the living. Transitioning back to civilian life was harder than he had imagined. He often stared out of windows and sat in silence during family dinners, feeling the walls close in with the unspoken words and concerned glances. Jake's family, his mother, once vibrant, now only a shadow of her former self, were entrapped in a web of concern for him, a tangled dialogue of sympathetic worry. But what could he share? The guilt, the chaos, the suffocating memories? He remained shackled by his own silence, even as they tried to reach him. In the local park, Jake would often seek solace. The laughter of children splintered his heart, innocent moments he craved but felt lost to him. Max would romp in the grass while Jake stared at the swings, watching. One day, amidst the echoes of joy, a sharp-eyed girl named Lily caught his attention. Their gazes locked, and she waved as if she knew him, as if some secret lay between them. Curiosity prickled at Jake, but he quickly dismissed it. It's South, not his place to let someone else Indiana. It wasn't long before Jake overheard her whispers to a friend, laced with an uncanny understanding of loss. He looks sad, like he's hiding something, she said. That struck a nerve. Jake's mind raced. Did she see the scars he tried to hide? Did she know about his dreams gone awry? A little girl, with a small, innocent voice, was unraveling him, layer by layer, a secret IED planted in his psyche. Suddenly, at that moment, Jake realized his first moral dilemma: should he engage, or shield himself, further entrenching his isolation? The very thought twisted inside him, evoking a frustration that compounded with an urgent need for connection. The thought of facing his own vulnerabilities clawed at the tender shreds of his resolve. Infuriated with Lily's insight, he forced himself away from her world of laughter. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. In the days that followed, buried fears resurfaced: fear of being unworthy, fear of facing the truth, fear of being a failure to his family. Jake's internal conflict grew heavier each day. Anxiety coiled like a serpent in his stomach. Would he continue crawling back into the shadows, or would he reach out and embrace that flicker of connection? Just as he grappled with what to do, something more pressing slipped into focus. Someone was trying to bully Lily at school for her family's struggles. He felt a defensive fire igniting within him, igniting an insistence he knew he couldn't ignore. But then, without warning, she disappeared while searching for what she believed was a family heirloom, something that belonged to Jake, woven into the fabric of his family history. Racing against the sinking shadows of dusk, he and Max launched through the park, urgently following what scant clues remained. Each step brought them closer to untangling hidden family histories and gripping truths that Jake had long evaded. What he unearthed was poised to unravel everything he thought he knew about himself, family, and the peculiar bond he shared with that courageous little girl. As the night deepened around them, he caught the haunting echoes of Destiny's whispers, spiraling into darkness, and Jake knew he stood on the precipice of something enormous, both healing and destruction. He had to wonder, could he hold it together until he understood the full weight of everything? Could he protect the fragile connections they'd built before they were ripped away? The shadows lengthened with the fading light, and Jake's heart raced, fueled by adrenaline and uncertainty. The park's familiar landscape morphed into a maze of urgency, each rustle of leaves drawing his attention like echoes of distant gunfire. Max trotted alongside him, his focus sharp, sensing the tension radiating from Jake. There was no time for second-guessing now. Lily was in trouble, and it fell upon him to act. With every stride, Jake felt the gravity of past failures pressing down on him. In the adrenaline-fueled rush, the determination that sparked within him felt alien yet necessary. Protecting Lily meant confronting both his own fears and the reasons he had turned inward after returning home. He thought back to the military, a brotherhood underscored by loyalty and sacrifice. He had stood shoulder to shoulder with comrades, sharing their burdens, yet standing alone, forcing himself to repress that connection had felt like surrender. They arrived at the edge of the park where the playground met the overgrown brush, a place where whispers and fears seemed to thrive. The girl's absence opened old wounds, whispers turning to roars in Jake's mind. When had he become so detached? Why could he let a child's distress stir the embers of his own? Resolve replaced uncertainty, igniting a clarity that he had long denied himself. "Max, find her," Jake commanded as they plunged into the thicket. The dog's intelligent eyes met his, an understanding exchanged. In that moment, they were not merely a veteran and a dog. They were a unit, a partnership forged through trials, the very embodiment of loyalty. Navigating through the underbrush, Jake's breath quickened. Each step was an act of defiance against the demons that clung to him. Paranoia whispered that he couldn't protect anyone, not even this little girl, who exposed the fractures in his soul. But what if he could? The thought planted a seed in his heart. Perhaps he could channel his combat experience into protecting those who needed it most, starting with Lily. A sudden rustle drew his gaze, and he halted. Straining to listen, he caught a faint whimper. It was unmistakably Lily. With renewed purpose, he rushed toward the sound, heart pounding. Reaching a secluded glade, he spotted her sitting against a tree, shoulders shaking as she tried to stifle her sobs. A cloud of desperation enveloped her. Jake felt his own fears swirl violently inside, but the sight of Lily's vulnerability pulled him from his spiraling thoughts. Kneeling before her, he softened his tone. "Lily, it's me, Jake. I'm here. You're safe." The impending tears she held back fell freely at the sound of his voice. She looked up, eyes wide with surprise but filled with trusting recognition. "Jake? I thought I got lost," she managed, her small frame trembling. Drawing in a slow breath, Jake felt a warmth flooding through him, a burgeoning sense of purpose. "You're not lost anymore. We'll find our way together." The path before them flickered with hope. As they began to retrace their steps, Jake made a promise: he would work to build bridges rather than retreat into isolation. He would unravel the threads of his past and forge new connections, even if that meant exposing his own scars. But in his quest for connection, lurking fears gnawed at him with relentless curiosity. What truths lay buried in the history he had evaded? Would revealing those truths bind him closer to Lily, or tear them apart? With each familiar landmark they passed on the way back, an unshakable feeling started to settle in the pit of Jake's stomach. He was wrestling with more than just his past. Someone had been watching from the shadows, and their intentions remained unknown. As they stepped onto the path leading back to the park's entrance, a figure emerged from the darkness, and Jake's heart plummeted. Was this a chance to confront the shadows in his own life, or merely another obstacle in his endeavor to connect? The looming darkness held its breath, and so did Jake. He would soon face the truth that had eluded him for far too long. Jake's instincts flared as the figure moved forward, a silhouette stepping into the nascent twilight. Max tensed at his side, growling softly, ready to spring into action. Every muscle in Jake's body knit with tension, the emotional and physical stakes higher than ever. "Stay behind me, Lily," he whispered, positioning himself protectively in front of her. The adrenaline coursing through him shifted from a desperate urge to find Lily to a focused determination to face whatever or whoever stood before them. As the figure drew closer, Jake squinted against the dim light. Recognition flickered within him, mixed with a torrent of emotions. It was Sam, a familiar face from his past. But their history, once laced with camaraderie, had been marred by unspoken grievances, feelings of resentment, and the undeniable rift that had formed when Jake returned home. "What are you doing here, Sam?" Jake's voice carried an edge, grounded in suspicion. "It's not what you think," Sam replied, his eyes darting from Jake to Lily. "I came to help." "Help with what?" The incredulity spilled over, echoing his internal conflict. Why now, after all this time? Why when Jake was trying to unravel the memories that dulled his senses? "The kids around here, there's been something off lately," Sam explained, urgency replacing defensiveness. Lily was seen wandering. You thought what? That you could just appear out of nowhere after being absent for so long?" Pain threaded through Jake's voice as he questioned the motives that had prompted Sam to come back into his life. Jake's old wounds throbbed anew. Memories of a loyal friendship now intertwined with betrayal flooded his mind. How easily they had shared their lives back in service, sharing laughter and burdens. But in peacetime, things became different. Distance and silence created chasms that neither had taken the first step to cross. But as he looked back at Lily, the slight girl who had become an unexpected anchor in his burgeoning resolve, the anger within him thawed. Sam was here now, maybe he held pieces of the puzzle that had haunted Jake since his return. "Let us think this through," Jake said, forcing his tone to stabilize as he faced Sam. "If there's something wrong with the kids, we need to uncover the truth. I can't afford to retreat again." Max calmed beside him, sensing the shift in Jake's emotional state. He turned his full attention to Sam, the veteran mentality creeping back in. This was about tactics, about gathering information and making strategic decisions rather than hiking through as a lone warrior. "Right," Sam agreed, his tension easing slightly. "There's been talk, rumors about someone lurking, watching. If Lily is connected to whatever's happening, we need to take this seriously." A sliver of collaboration sparked between them, an unspoken truce born of necessity. For the first time since their estrangement, Jake's heart lifted with a mixture of hope and wariness. Perhaps there was a path forward, one that could lead to resolution not just for Lily, but for himself as well. "Sam," he began, choosing his words carefully, "if we're going to do this, I need you to understand I can't go through this alone. I need to trust you again." "I'm ready," Sam replied, sincerity etched on his face. "Let us get to the bottom of this. Together." Jake felt the weight of vulnerability settle over him, his past hesitations, his fears of trust, all clashing with the urgency of now. This was more than just about Lily. It was about confronting the tight knots of failure he had wrapped tightly around his heart. As they prepared to move into the darkness, stepping firmly into a shared mission, those second-guessing thoughts screamed louder. The shadows held untold dangers, and Jake couldn't shake the gut feeling that they weren't alone. What awaited them in that deepening darkness? The truth, perhaps, or something more sinister that would unearth deeper connections and unresolved tensions that could shatter everything. As they stepped into the shadows, Jake's resolve solidified. He would not flee from the storm brewing inside him, nor the shadows skirting around his past. He would face it all. And the real question loomed, could he handle what lay beneath the surface of both Lily's whisper and his own buried truths? Crouched in the encroaching darkness, Jake felt the familiar weight of responsibility settle heavily on his shoulders once more. Betrayal and camaraderie twisted within him, a dichotomy he couldn't ignore as they took those first tentative steps together into the unknown. Sam walked beside him, equal parts reminder of past failures and a potential ally in unearthing the truth. "Stay alert," Jake instructed, his voice steady but low, a practiced tone learned through years of training and hard lessons. The night was thick with tension, a silence so profound that even the rustling leaves seemed to hold their breath. Lily trailed closely behind them, her vulnerability sparking a fierce protectiveness, igniting a determination he'd nearly forgotten. As they crept farther into the darkness, Jake's mind whirred with thoughts, each one a flickering image of their shared history, a friendship shaped by shared experiences but fractured by absence. Memories of late-night strategies and dangers faced together floated up, sharpening his focus. He had trusted Sam then, but years of silence had demanded earthy scars that required more than just a truce to heal. "Tell me more about these rumors," Jake said, gauging Sam's reaction. "Kids have been acting strange, almost hypnotized," Sam replied, his brow furrowed with concern. "Some have gone missing, and whispers follow them. There's this feeling around town, like someone's pulling strings." The weight of Sam's words drove into Jake's gut, igniting both fear and a deep-seated urge to act. His instincts kicked in, slicing through the layers of doubt that had clouded his judgment. What if that's why Lily was drawn out here? The realization transformed the cocoon of tension coiling within him into a fiery resolve. They didn't have time to ponder what-ifs, they needed a plan, and they needed it now. In the flickering light of a distant street lamp, he spotted an old, worn path overgrown with weeds, remnants of the fading town's spirit. It was a route he remembered taking as a child, a place that whispered of innocence, yet now bore an unsettling burden. "We should check the old mall first." It was a favorite spot for the kids. Jake's voice held a sense of authority, a decision rooted in instinct and memory. "That's a good call," Sam agreed, matching Jake's determined stride. If anyone would know something, it'd be the kids who hung around back there. As they approached the mall, memories flooded back to Jake, nostalgia battling the present fear. The echo of laughter, ringing in his ears, was quickly muted by the reality that this place now loomed as a potential epicenter of their troubles. "Keep your thoughts focused," Jake murmured, more to himself than to Sam. His mind stumbled over ghosts of friendship and potential betrayal. Could he build that bridge with Sam again, or was he setting himself up for another downfall? The mall's entrance loomed ahead, a shadowy maw that could either conceal answers or dangers. Jake paused, closing his eyes for a moment, allowing the cool air to envelop him. It felt like a reckoning, sensing both the past and the possibility of the future. He was confronted with the gravity of his choices. Lily's small hand squeezed his arm, grounding him. "I'm not scared," she whispered, her quiet resolve startling him. Her innocence resonated, striking a chord buried beneath his walls of self-preservation. That simple declaration pierced through Jake's trepidation, grounding him in purpose. She was counting on him, and that was more than enough. "Then neither am I," he said, forcing a confident smile though uncertainty gnawed inside him. As they entered the mall, stepping into the dimly lit interior, Jake felt the chill of otherworldly sensations creeping along his spine. Something was waiting here, something substantive yet elusive, intertwining their fates together. What secrets would they unearth within these walls? As thoughts spiraled, merging with the delicate threads of trust and resolution, Jake couldn't shake the looming dread that whatever awaited them could either redeem or ruin him completely. The moment they crossed the threshold, Jake was struck by the stale air of the mall, a stale mix of rancid food and dust that spoke of abandonment. Echoes of laughter reverberated faintly in his mind, transformed now into ghostly lamentations of what had once been. He adjusted his grip around the flashlight, directing the beam toward the graffiti-smeared walls that bore the marks of children who had once sought refuge here. "Stay close," Jake urged, eyes scanning for any signs of movement beyond the shadows. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on him. Here he was, guardian to a child, grappling with childhood fears as new shadows emerged, threatening to take away their innocence once more. Lily squeezed his arm tighter, grounding him in the chaos of his thoughts. The promise of protection thrummed in his chest. He realized that this was not just a quest for answers but a reaffirmation of his role as a protector. He had to step up, his own healing bound to her safety. "Look," Sam whispered, kneeling beside a cluster of fallen debris. There's a toy. He unearthed a small, rusted tricycle wheel, its rainbow paint long faded. The sight of it sparked a whirlpool of emotion within Jake. A symbol of misguided joy in their childhood, now hinting at something darker lurking beneath. A chill shot through him, an increased sense of urgency wrapping around his heart. "We have to move, now," he commanded, though doubt flickered within. Would digging into the past expose them to safety or further danger? They navigated through the wreckage of retail storefronts, each step echoing within the vast emptiness. Jake's mind darted to the rumors, his curiosity entwining with apprehension. What could possess kids to act strange? His questions clawed at him, seeking solid ground, but each answer eluded him like shadows shifting just out of reach. "Jake, over here," Sam called softly, pointing to a dimly lit hallway leading deeper into the mall. There was something distinctly unnerving about it, the way the light flickered as if warning them. "Let us not split up," Jake insisted, already feeling the weight of dread that pulled at him. "There's too many unknowns." But the insistent murmurs from deeper within the building tugged at something primal inside Jake, prompting him to hesitate. He felt torn, every instinct told him to seek safety, yet the whisper of adventure and the promise of clarity pulled him toward the unknown. A movement caught the corner of his eye. It was brief, barely there, but enough to send a shiver coursing through him. "We're not alone," he murmured, adrenaline surging. He found himself clenching the flashlight, the familiar tool of illumination now taking on an almost sacred significance. It became an extension of his will, illuminating spaces, revealing dark corners, the very act of shining light where darkness congregated, a metaphor for his own internal battles. They entered the corridor, apprehension mingling with resolve, moving deeper into the heart of the mall. Jake's mind sifted through past mistakes, wondering if those who had fallen into darkness would now be his guides or his executioners. A voice, faint yet recognizable, echoed through the dimness. "Help me." It danced around them, rising from the shadows like a ghastly fog. Jake's pulse quickened, every muscle taut with the instinct to protect and uncover the truth. "Did you hear that?" Sam's eyes widened, vulnerability unmasked. Jake nodded, the voice ripping through his resolve. It was a child, fear mingling with the faintest glimmer of hope. Perseverance surged within him, stronger than before. Perhaps uncovering the mysteries of this place could help him reclaim what he had lost: trust, purpose, redemption. With renewed determination, he stepped forward. The path laid out before them demanded that he confront his fears. "We have to find her," Jake said firmly, each word running as a current through his veins. As they approached the source, the whisper faded, leaving an unsettling silence in its wake. Doubt flirted with his convictions. Was everything he hoped for just an illusion? Just then, a figure darted from the shadows, sending Jake's instincts racing. This was it, everything was about to change. "Who is it?" Jake's voice cut through the darkness with urgency. But the figure vanished again, drawing them deeper into perilous depths, and doubt began to creep in once more. What awaited them at the end of this encounter: truth, or torment? Jake's heart thundered as the last remnants of the child's voice echoed in the corridor. The darkness around them felt thick, almost palpable, and with each passing second, the weight of uncertainty grew heavier. Sam's anxious breathing beside him served as a reminder that they were not merely explorers of the unknown, but also custodians of a fragile life they sought to protect. He steeled himself. This wasn't just about curiosity, it was about answering the call of someone in need. The light of his flashlight sliced through the gloom, revealing the uneven floor littered with rubble, remnants of commerce long forgotten. Yet beneath that debris lay the potential for discovery, a chance to confront whatever lurked in the shadows, not just for the child's sake, but for his own unexamined fears. "Stay alert," Jake whispered, his voice low but firm. He mentally navigated the challenges ahead, weighing their options as they pushed forward. There had to be a conclusion to this. Peering into the past could illuminate truths he had buried so long ago about himself, about his family, about the meaning of trust lost and perhaps, found. Lily's soft grip on his arm tightened, grounding him further. He could sense her wariness, yet beneath that skittishness was a flicker of hope. "Do you think she's okay?" Her voice trembled, a genuine concern piercing through the trepidation that enveloped them. "I believe she might be," Jake replied, wanting to instill confidence. "We'll get her out. I promise." But as he said it, the weight of his promise felt heavier than before. What if the journey ahead led to more revelations about the darkness that could engulf them? Ahead, the corridor opened slightly, revealing an area cloaked in shadows. Jake's instincts surged, he felt a visceral need to protect. They stepped cautiously into what could only be a larger space. The air was colder here, sending a shiver down his spine as he flicked the flashlight toward what seemed to be overturned store displays and more traces of childhood abandoned plush toys, fragmented trinkets that spoke of innocence lost. "This feels wrong," Sam muttered, more a statement of fact than a question. "Maybe we should go back." But Jake hesitated. "No. We need to see this through." Each item they passed became a testament to his internal struggle, the echoes of laughter and joy now replaced by a harsh silence. However misguided these remnants may be, he understood that facing them head-on could lead him toward the truth. As they navigated between long-bereft storefronts, a sudden movement caught his attention. He swung the flashlight toward the disturbance. There it was again, an unmistakable silhouette darting just beyond the reach of his light. It was small and fleeting, he could hardly trust his eyes. His pulse quickened, fueled by the mixture of hope and dread that coursed through him. "Did you see that?" Jake whispered, gesturing toward the spot. Before he could leap forward, another voice emerged, this time clearer. "Help me." The persistent call resonated deeper within him. It encapsulated his drive, the desire to reclaim purpose, to conquer the shadows of his own mind that had held him captive for so long. There was no retreat now, courage surged in equal parts with fear. "Let us move," Jake commanded, the effort of suppressing uncertainty strengthening his resolve. He felt something shift within him, a reminder of the protector he had once aspired to be. This wasn't just about rescuing a child, it was about reinvigorating the pillars of his own identity, strength, fortitude, and the fierce resolve to face the darkness. They plunged further into the shadowy abyss, the child's voice echoing, leading them on a path where each step became a battle between doubt and defiance. As they pressed on, the air thickened, electric with potential transformation. And then, just as they turned a corner, the atmosphere flipped. In a blink, they stumbled upon a room bathed in an eerie, dim light filled with children's art strewn on the walls, but beneath the surface lay marks of something far more sinister. In that moment, Jake realized, revelations weren't merely about releasing information, they were about the confrontation of his deepest fears. The hour had arrived for him to grapple with the shadows not as a protector, but as a man figuring out his own fractured history. The question lingered, what truths awaited them in this room, and could Jake reconcile his past while saving another innocent soul? As he stepped over the threshold, one thought crystallized in his mind: this was only the beginning of a long overdue reckoning. Jake's senses heightened as they crossed the threshold. The dimly lit room, steeped in a profound sense of unease, felt suffocating. Childhood drawings adorned the walls, vivid yet haunting in their innocence. The juxtaposition of cheerful colors against the decay of the surroundings struck him deeply. It was a reminder of what had been lost, not just the child they were searching for, but pieces of himself that he had long buried under layers of regret and fear. As his flashlight swept across the room, he caught glimpses of crayon-scribbled houses, stick figures, and wild animals. Each artwork felt like a plea, a frozen moment of joy amidst chaos. Jake felt a surge of determination. This child had poured her heart into these creations, expressing emotions he too had avoided confronting. "Do you see this?" Sam asked hesitantly, his voice barely above a whisper, breaking the heavy silence. "It's like a shrine, but they're so sad." Jake nodded, the weight of the realization pressing down on him. These artifacts spoke volumes, each detail echoing the vulnerability they desperately needed to address. If they were to find the girl, they needed more than courage, they needed to understand the essence of what had happened here. He stepped closer to the nearest drawing, a handful of colors swirling in chaotic patterns. As he leaned in, whispers faint yet insistent whirled around him. Was it the dread of memories unearthing? Or was it the child's spirit lingering, urging him toward the truth buried beneath layers of neglect? Lily's grip tightened again, pulling him out of his reverie. "Jake!" Her voice was laced with urgency, eyes darting toward the far corner of the room. Following her gaze, he saw something, the silhouette darting again, more defined this time. The flicker of movement propelled him forward without another thought. "Stay close," he instructed, the sharpness of his voice cutting through the tension. As he approached the corner, the air felt charged, every instinct alert, every fear rising to the surface. It was as if he was on the precipice of uncovering not only the fate of the child but a piece of his own identity. The shadows whispered of fears unaddressed, wounds unhealed. This wasn't merely an act of rescue, it was a path to rediscover the man he had lost along the way. When they reached the corner, the child's voice pierced through again. "Help me." The plea pulled at him, igniting something deep within, a flicker of the protector he aspired to be. But as they rounded the corner, what lay before them shocked him to his core. There, huddled amidst the darkness of the room, was not just an innocent child but an array of remnants left behind, debris that seemed to embody the fears and traumas he had attempted to shield himself from. How can they let this happen? Sam's voice had shifted, confusion and anger intertwined. "This is wrong." His righteous indignation mirrored Jake's own rising discontent. "Because sometimes people don't know how to face what's been lost," Jake replied, his mind racing. This moment was bigger than the search for the girl, it was about confronting the narratives he'd crafted around his own losses. As he bent down to sift through the items, a child's shoe, a cracked porcelain doll, he felt a rush of memories flood back, of moments when he had walked away instead of facing pain. Each item resonated with the choices he had made or avoided, the foundations of his life crumbling as the weight of realization pressed down on him. The confrontation with these artifacts was a direct reflection of his own struggle. What truths had he hidden? Was he ready to reassess his past choices? "Jake, look!" Lily's sharp exclamation interrupted his fury of thoughts. She pointed toward what appeared to be a blanket draped over a small figure. With trepidation, he stepped forward, the raw essence of fear and hope battling within him. He couldn't escape this moment, this was his reckoning. The time had come to face the truth behind the whispers and confront the very shadows from which he had tried to run. As the blanket slipped away, revealing a child nestled within, the gravity of the situation shifted, opening up a new labyrinth of emotion and urgency. How could he find the means to protect her and himself from the darkness closing in? Step by step, the echoes of his past were unearthing, and a fresh challenge awaited him. The real battle had just begun. Jake knelt in the dim light, with the child's form illuminated against the backdrop of shadows. She looked small and fragile, her face smeared with grime and tears. In that moment, all the fears he had kept at bay surged forth like a tidal wave. Would he be able to reach her? Would he be able to save not just her, but also himself from the encroaching darkness of his own past? The girl looked up at him, eyes wide and pleading. "Please," her voice broke, the vulnerability stirring a fierce protective instinct within him. This was not just about rescuing a lost child, it was a chance for redemption, an opportunity to face the cores of his failures. "You're safe now," he managed to say, his voice steady even as his heart raced. He reached out, hand trembling, and brushed the hair from her forehead. It felt monumental, a gesture harboring the weight of all the moments he'd not intervened before. But as he extended his hand, a chilling thought crept in: if he couldn't rescue this child, would he ever forgive himself? Would he be trapped in the echoes of past decisions, constantly reliving those what-ifs? The burden of unresolved regret lingered like smoke filling his lungs. He had the chance to change the narrative. "Jake, we should get her out of here." Sam's voice cut through his internal tumult, grounded and insistent. Just then, the girl pressed herself tighter against the wall, as if sensing the danger rushing in. "You don't know what happened here," Jake whispered urgently, his attention focused back on the child. He needed to navigate this moment carefully, recognizing how vulnerable, how scarred she might be. "What's your name?" he asked, trying to coax her out of her protective shell. "Rosie," she murmured, her gaze darting around the room as if haunted by unseen ghosts. "Rosie, I know it's scary, but we're here to help you. We're not going to let anyone hurt you again. Can you come with us?" He felt desperate yet determined to break through whatever wall had formed around her heart. Lily moved in closer, her demeanor softening as she extended a comforting hand. "We're friends, Rosie. We want to get you out of here." For a fleeting moment, uncertainty flickered in Rosie's eyes, but it was quickly replaced by raw pain Jake recognized as a mirror to his own. Each scar she bore echoing the deeper wounds he had concealed for too long. The room pulsed with an oppressive energy, drawing Jake further into contemplation. As the walls seemed to close in, he realized that the shadows he feared mirrored the darkness in his own life. What would it mean to lead Rosie out, while remaining captive to his own unaddressed demons? "Let us go," he urged firmly, igniting a spark of courage amid his inner storm. Rosie hesitated, and a tight knot twisted in his stomach. He couldn't falter now. The battle for her safety became intricately tied to his own fight against fear. Jake recalled moments in his life when he had faced uncertainty, times when he had bravely stepped into uncomfortable territory and triumphed. This was another opportunity, he could lead the way. He took a calculated breath, defiance igniting in the pit of his stomach. As if in response, he felt that flicker of the protector waking inside him, the essence of who he could yet become. He knelt lower, matching her gaze, and quietly asserted, "You won't be alone. I promise." The fragility of trust hung delicately between them as he offered his hand once more. Jake's heart thudded loudly in his chest, the stakes higher than ever. Rosie blinked, a hint of hesitation still swirling in the air. Then, as if compelled by something more profound than fear, she reached out. The warmth of her hand grasping his sent a surge of hope through him. He wouldn't just save her, they would save each other. By taking her hand, he felt the connection solidifying, a tether between the two souls, each marked by loss yet now on the precipice of finding strength. Suddenly, he sensed that this moment could define not just her recovery, but his own journey of redemption. But as they began to rise, the room shifted once more, a haunting sound echoing in the distance, curling around them like tendrils of an approaching storm. There were still echoes of danger lurking within the shadows. The real challenge had only just begun. Would they make it through together, unscathed? With a sense of urgency fueling his resolve, Jake led them toward the exit, aware that they were now racing against more than just time. They were confronting the darkness that threatened to consume them both. The air thickened as Jake pulled Rosie to her feet, his grip steady but careful, attuned to the delicate flicker of life in her small hand. The echoes of danger reverberated through the narrow space, a constant reminder of the stakes at play. With each tentative step, Jake felt the weight of unresolved guilt flood his mind. Could he truly be the guardian he wished to be? As they moved, his instincts kicked in. He led Rosie carefully, his senses sharpened by a mix of adrenaline and determination. The shadows on the walls became more pronounced, and Jake wished he could cleanse them with the light of hope. Every creak of the building intensified his anxiety, yet his primary focus remained unwavering. She needed him. "Stay close to me," he whispered, though it felt redundant. The bond they forged, a silent pact born through mutual need, drew them together. Still, he couldn't shake the lingering doubt about whether he had the strength to protect her from whatever lurked outside that door. As they neared the exit, a muffled voice resonated in the distance, echoing off the walls like a warning. Jake froze momentarily, heart pounding. It was the voice of a man, commanding, assertive. The uncertainty in Jake's stomach coiled tighter. Who was that? Just how much danger lay just beyond the threshold? Jake, Sam's voice broke into his thoughts, urgent yet low. We need to move now. The call to action brought him back to the moment. Right, he answered, trying to conceal the tremor in his voice. With Rosie tugging gently at his sleeve, he felt a rush of determination again. For her, he would confront whatever awaited them. As they burst through the door and into the fading light of the evening, the world outside felt both promising and ominous. The sky blazed with a fiery sunset, but the shadows stretched alarmingly long as if preparing to swallow them whole. Jake inhaled deeply, mixing clarity with the scent of damp earth, each breath igniting a spark of defiance against his turbulent thoughts. Where do we go? Rosie asked, her voice a fragile strand woven through the chaos. Jake knelt beside her, catching her gaze. Anywhere but here, he assured her, though the words sounded hollow, taut with an uncertainty he could not shake. I need you to trust me, Rosie. Can you do that? She nodded, her eyes reflecting a wisdom born of experience that belied her years. In her gaze, he glimpsed something hopeful, a glimmer of resilience mirrored in his own heart. Jake led them down an alley behind the crumbling building, each step a defiance against the haunting past that threatened to consume not just him, but the innocent child alongside him. With every sound, every distant footfall, he felt the gravity of his choices crystalline in the fading light. Why were you in there? He suddenly blurted, and his voice cut through the tension, startling them both. It was more than curiosity, it was a desperate need to connect, to grasp at the threads of understanding. Confronting the truth could illuminate not just Rosie's plight, but perhaps, shed light on his own dark corners. As her delicate features tightened with hesitation, Jake held his breath. Would she open up, revealing the layers of her experience, or would this moment become another missed opportunity? Her answer, he realized, could push him further into the murky waters of his own past, challenging the fragile facade of control he had built. Rosie stammered, glancing down. The battle between her need for safety and the weight of her memories hung thick in the air, and Jake felt a familiar flicker of his own turmoil rising, the battle to confront pain rather than hide from it. Suddenly, a crash shattered the quiet, drawing their attention back toward the street. The door they had escaped from was flung open, and a dark figure emerged, silhouetted against the last remnants of day. Jake! Sam shouted, eyes wide with alarm. We have to go. In that moment, Jake faced not only the imminent external danger but a deeper challenge, the realization that redemption was not merely about saving Rosie, it was about confronting the darkness within himself, right here, right now. With the figure advancing, Jake realized he had a choice to make, not only for Rosie's sake but his own. Would he stand and fight, or would he flee, letting the shadows swallow him whole once more? The time had come to face himself and whatever lay ahead. In the dim light of the alley, Jake's heart raced, a storm of adrenaline and fear swirling within him. The figure advancing from the building carried an ominous aura, yet beneath it all, Jake felt something shift inside, a determination forged by urgency and resilience, one he had thought lost. Get behind me, Rosie, he instructed, positioning himself protectively in front of her. The weight of responsibility pressed down on him, rekindling a flicker of the soldier he had been. This was no longer just a mission of rescue, it was also a mission of redemption. He had to confront not only the approaching danger but the shadowy remnants of his own past. Who are you? The figure called out, voice gravelly, laced with a mixture of command and threat. But Jake was no longer paralyzed by fear. He had made his choice. Stay away from her. Jake shouted, his voice steadied by the familiarity of assertiveness he had honed during his service. The darkness within him demanded acknowledgement and strength, a strength born of confronting danger head-on. As the figure neared, Sam positioned himself beside Jake, their unspoken partnership anchored in the shared burden of history and conviction. Let us help her, she doesn't deserve this. Sam's voice rang clear, echoing Jake's resolution. For a moment, doubt flickered in the figure's eyes, revealing a crack in his facade. It was then Jake realized the complexity of their confrontation. Sometimes, the greatest battles lay not with external enemies, but with the demons that festered inside individuals. Enough games. The figure lunged forward, and instincts took over. Jake's body reacted without thought, pulling Rosie further back into the safety of Sam's shadow. "Stay close," he repeated, his protective instinct over Rosie surging, igniting a sense of purpose, a commitment to shield her from whatever lurking evil threatened their fragile sanctuary. With a swift motion, he delivered a forceful shove to the advancing figure, who stumbled back, surprised. "This isn't just a game for you, is it?" Jake found himself saying, his voice tinged with a newfound conviction. "People aren't pawns to be manipulated. They deserve to be protected, valued, and loved." With those words, Jake began to see the clarity he had been longing for. The external conflict mirrored his internal struggles. This wasn't just about rescuing Rosie, it was about reclaiming himself, his identity unbound from the shadows of his past. As he advanced, every step became a reclamation of power. The figure hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty materializing as he assessed the resolve in Jake's stance. It was clear Jake was no longer the lost soldier, he was a protector, standing firmly against whatever darkness lay ahead. "Enough!" the figure bellowed, disoriented by Jake's confident declaration. It was now or never the time to confront not only threats in the alley, but the adversities lurking in his psyche. Jake focused on the protection of the innocent child behind him, unrelenting in his fight for her safety. He shifted his stance, fueled by purpose, merging the warrior within with the guardian he aspired to be. For the first time, he felt the satisfaction of solid confidence and affirmation of competence born from struggle. As they exchanged blows, each hit reverberated a profound clarity. He could conquer fear and guilt. He could seize the moment and transform his life by facing his broken past without losing himself in the abyss. With each movement, Jake embraced his growth, no longer a lone protector fighting shadows but a steadfast figure capable of healing through confrontation. A moment of stillness enveloped them, a rare pause in an otherwise chaotic existence. The figure hesitated, confusion evident as Jake continued to advance. Destiny had a way of unveiling the truth, shaping who they were meant to be through strife rather than silence. Jake stood tall, aware that this battle transcended the physical. It demanded the unraveling of his inner turmoil, the acceptance of his scars as reminders of survival rather than burdens of shame. "Step back," Jake commanded, engulfed in a newfound strength, his voice unwavering. "We're leaving together." Confrontation yielded clarity, and in a final surge, he blasted forward with all the conviction he could muster. The figure recoiled, the shadows dissipating before him as he stepped into the light, embracing the potential for a brighter tomorrow. As the figure faltered and retreated backward, Jake felt a shift in the air. The heavy weight of regret began to lift, replaced with a palpable sense of achievement. He glanced back at Rosie, eyes shining with a flicker of faith. She believed in him. "Let us go," he urged, taking her hand firmly in his, leading her toward the sanctuary of Dusk's embrace. In those moments that followed, Jake felt transformed, the final stitch tying together the fabric of his character, the soldier and protector, emboldened by connection. Each step echoed with the promise of integrity and resolve. Together, they forged a path toward healing that transcended mere survival. The weight of his accomplishment was real, and finally, Jake could stand confidently in a world that felt like home once again. The lingering doubt that had marred his existence faded into memory, as he transcended the veil of shadows once and for all. And as they emerged from the darkness of that alley, he whispered a silent vow to himself, realizing that this journey was only just beginning, one where he would continue to conquer fears and embrace his ever-evolving identity, with each new step toward healing becoming an enduring testament to the power of genuine connection. Jake achieved the ultimate triumph not merely in rescuing Rosie but in reclaiming his purpose, and his confidence became solidified as he stepped into the light and the life waiting for him beyond the shadows. Now, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and enhance our community. Did this ending resonate with you? Comment your reactions and theories below. Your voice matters. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. It's time to spread the message of overcoming.